Abundance Wala, and you're watching Abundance Show on Global Abundance Organization, GOW TV. And what is abundance? Abundance is a mindset. The negative or the opposite of abundance is scarcity. And I am taking myself from scarcity thinking mindset, scarce mindset to abundant mindset. And how am I doing this? Is just because of few change makers, those who have already done it. I am their mentee, and here is another superb example is Pete Alexander. And let's learn his story. Let's know how he has changed from scarcity to abundance mindset. Over to you, Pete. How are you?
Oh, I'm wonderful so far. Thank you so much for having me on your wonderful show, and I really appreciate your listeners' time as well.
Thank you so much. Pete, I would love to know more about yourself, and for my audience, if you can introduce yourself. Over to you.
Sure. I do several things. I have an interior landscaping business that's based in the San Francisco Bay Area. And one of the things I love about having an interior plant company is the opportunity to bring nature into offices. And that's something that allows us to be able to reduce stress in people's work environments. And in addition, I've served as a professor where I've been able to motivate thousands of students on how to develop marketing plans um, to for particular topics that are of their interest. And I'm uh, a stress relief expert that basically came about because I burned out doing stress, and I'm also a laughter yoga ambassador and also a improv comedy performer. So those are my backgrounds. Uh,
I'm sorry, I was mute. Thank you so much for. First of all, I am in the stance of gratitude. Such a amazing personality is on my show, and your story of resilience, your story, your entire success story, that you started from scratch, and today you're a professor, Pete Alexander. You're changing lives, thousands of lives, and I know you through also from the mentoring club in Silicon Valley, through
mhm,
Lizel Mendoza. I mean, we've been talking a lot about you, and
mhm.
I've been after you for a long time, and finally you're here, and thank you so much. A lot of gratitude to the Almighty and to you also that
My
you're here.
pleasure.
Thank you. And I would like you to unleash abundance of laughter therapy.
I'm sorry. Abundance of
I
what?
would abundance of laughter therapy.
Oh, laughter therapy. Oh, sure. So what's interesting is laughter. So laughter yoga. It started in 1995 by a cardiologist in India, Maiden Kataria, and it has spawned into over the last 31 years uh, into over 20,000 clubs worldwide in 120 countries. And what's wonderful about laughter is you know how great it feels to laugh out loud. What happens is when we do that for at least 5 seconds or more, our bodies release positive endorphins that give us all these health benefits, which have been clinically proven in 36 worldwide clinical studies, including stress relief, lowering pressure, lowering uh, the uh, the stress that someone will have, as well as improving their mood. And what is crazy about it is that you know, even though our bodies are so smart and they can repair themselves, they don't know the difference between a real and a simulated laugh. Only knows that we're laughing. And so when we get together in a laughter yoga session, what we're doing is we're doing games, activities that try and touch our inner child and get us to laugh like we did as children. And if we do a simulated laughter exercise, what happens is that because laughter is so contagious, it ends up getting us to laugh, for true mirthful laughter. And that's what the magic of laughter yoga is when we get together and we laugh together, and it builds community, because no matter what your background is in culture, political beliefs, um, religion, it doesn't matter. Laughter brings people together. And that's what's so wonderful about doing this. I've seen profound changes in people who come to the class and enjoy laughing, and then just realize that, you know what? This is something that at first felt very weird, because as adults, we're told that we have to have a reason to laugh. But in laughter yoga, we laugh for no reason. And so once you get used to laughing for no reason, the magic happens.
Thank you. As you said, positive makes a difference.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when we're laughing, it's easy for us to be positive, because we're laughing, we feel good, and we're laughing with others. And so often, especially in class, we're laughing about the most ridiculous things, the most ridiculous things. And again, it goes back to tapping into our inner child, how we're able to touch things that, that we came naturally when we were children. Because when we were children, the average child will laugh, giggle, smile at least 100 times a day. But as adults, with all of the responsibilities that we have, we're lucky if we laugh 5 times a day, or smile or giggle. And so we're trying to tap more into that. And it's really fun. And like I said, you have to get used to it. So what I always suggest to people is give it 2 times. Come the first time to experience it, and you're going to feel weird, because again, you're laughing for no reason. That doesn't feel natural. Once you know what to expect, then come back a second time and just enjoy the process, and then make a decision after that if that's something that you want to continue.
My goodness. So for me, what's powerful is that your internal mechanism cannot differentiate between the real loss or simulation,
Correct.
but the result is same. My goodness, this convinces me to laugh for no reason and keep
Yes.
laughing. Again, no, when we laugh, what happens? What's the mechanism that triggers or like it start functioning, which was earlier not functioning?
Yes. So what happens is that if we laugh for 5 seconds or more, our positive endorphins are released into our bodies. These are basically the feel good hormones. And so what's happening is that it tries to push out the stress hormones that we end up having, the cortisol, adrenaline, that are designed for our bodies to the fight flight syndrome, where we as our bodies, they're the same bodies that were like in the Stone Age, where, let's say, we would face a dinosaur or saber-toothed tiger or something like that. Short-term stress, where once we take care of whatever we have to deal with, then we go back to being the normal process. But unfortunately, today, most of our stress is not physical, it's mental. Well over 95% of our stress is mental. And the problem is because our bodies and our minds have so much power over our bodies. When we're stressed, what ends up happening is that we're dropping adrenaline, we're dropping cortisol into our bodies constantly instead of just on occasion like they were designed for. And so as we continue to drop that adrenaline and cortisol into our bodies constantly over time, our bodies are in reactive mode. And what ends up happening is that early on, we might start noticing stress-related symptoms, and these might be things like back and shoulder stiffness. That's an early sign of that, and that's typically something that's very common, especially for those that work at a desk during the day, because they may not notice it, but when we're stressed, we tend to hunch over at our desks, and that puts a lot of pressure on our back and our shoulders. So that's something that if we notice that happening more and more, that is our body telling us that we are stressed. And the problem is that if we continue to ignore the different signs that our body gives us that we're stressed, what'll end up happening is that it only gives our body one choice: to keep upping the pressure, to let us know that we need to do something about it. And as our bodies continue upping the pressure, then something's going to break inevitably. And unfortunately for me, it happened to me back in 2008, where I had a perfect storm of stressful activities happening, and my body was giving me all of the indicators, everything: the headaches, the stomach problems, the back and shoulder stiffness, everything you can imagine. And I just kept on ignoring it. And then finally, my body said, "Okay, well, I'm gonna." The weakest link in my chain's body was my pancreas, and I was diagnosed with stress-induced diabetes. And now I have to deal with this chronic disease for the rest of my life, even though no one in my family has diabetes. So it is what it is. And and I learned the hard way that if you don't listen to your body and address the stress, you're looking at really serious damage down the line.
Wow. These are not mere myths, but these are the actual facts that really matter.
Mhm,
And you listen
mhm,
to your body, and then
mhm.
you addressed. Not only listening is not enough, but you act. You address, and then you in fact you reinstate yourself to your mean position. That's healthy as you are right now. Okay, would you like to narrate us your story? Right from your
So,
childhood, your story of resilience, and what Peter Alexander is Peter Alexander for.
sure. So Stress and I, we've had a lifetime experience together. Unfortunately, I grew up in an extremely dysfunctional household. My parents were combined, had 9 marriages, 7 divorces, and 1 widowing. And the crazy thing about that is I have one sister. She's 9 years older than I am, and she's a 100% blood sibling, but she's from a different marriage because she's the product of my parents' first marriage. I'm the product of my parents' second marriage. So I haven't been able to find anybody else that has a sibling, 100% sibling from a different marriage. But that just shows you kind of what was going on. Unfortunately, there was a lot of alcoholism, drug use with my parents and siblings. Not my sister, not so much, but my step brothers and sisters that I had to grow up with, and a lot of drug use, a lot of issues there. And so what ended up happening is that I, as a child, had to become an adult much earlier than I should have. And so I didn't get to experience being a child the way you would say a normal childhood was like. And once I became an adult, I didn't know how to deal with the stress. And so what I would do with the stress is I would just, you know, n- not address it. I would just let it build up inside of me, build up, build up, build up. And so what ended up happening is that at least with the dysfunction in 1990, I was able to discover a 12-step program called Adult Children of Alcoholics and Dysfunctional Families that helped me deal with what was going on inside my mind, but it didn't help me address the stress that I was still dealing with as an adult, as a parent, as a career professional. And so I continued to put aside the stress, always taking care of either my job needs or my family needs, always putting that first and not putting what was going on inside of me first. And so what happened was this perfect storm of things that were my dad was dying and he was in hospice and he needed all of his affairs taken care of. My mom, who had been divorced, uh, and she lost her husband back in the 80s. She had to have hip surgery and didn't have the insurance to be able to take care of the post surgery recovery, so she needed help. My children were very small at that time and wanted my attention. I was running a business that was taking easily 80 hours a week, and my marriage was heading for a divorce. So needless to say, lots of things on my shoulders. And what I started noticing is I started losing weight rapidly, rapidly. And I lost 30 pounds in 30 days. Now, I was not doing any dieting. I was eating whatever I wanted. I was doing my exercise, but nothing out of the ordinary. And the weight kept on coming off. And so after the 30th pound came off, I decided to go have some blood work done, and they came back and they said, "Well, you stressed yourself out enough that you now have stress-induced diabetes." And instead of addressing the issue at that point, I did what most people who are workaholics do. I said, "Fine, just give me the medication. I don't have time to deal with this." And so I continued to burn the candle at both ends for another 10 years until I ended up in the emergency room and an extended stay in ICU with a severe case of diabetic ketoacidosis. Now, for those of you listening who may not know what that is, basically, my body was eating itself alive because of my stress. And at that point, I had returned to corporate and I was working for a micromanager. And I'll never forget, uh, on my second day in ICU, I get a text from my boss, roughly 6 o'clock in the morning. And the text says, "You have a webinar you need to run at 8 o'clock. What are you going to do about it?" Now, my boss knew I was in ICU. I did not have my laptop, work laptop with me in the ICU. So what I did was I started pushing the envelope. This is in 2018, pushing the envelope of what my phone could do to try and reschedule that webinar. And the nurse at that time came over to me and she was checking my blood sugars every half an hour. You definitely don't sleep in the ICU. They're constantly poking you. And so my blood sugars, when I was first admitted to the hospital, they were so high that the medical grade glucometers could not read my blood sugars. They just said high. So the lab had to manually estimate what my blood sugars were, and they manually estimated it to be 8 to 10 times higher than normal. So, after 2 days in ICU, my numbers had come down. They were still high, but at least they were more reasonable. They were in the few hundreds versus the 1,000. And so here I am trying to reschedule this webinar, and the nurse comes over, checks my blood, and my numbers, like a 90-degree angle, had just started shooting straight back up because of the stress of trying to reschedule this webinar. And she says to me, matter of factly, she says, "You realize that's what put you in this hospital bed in the first place," pointing at my phone. And I realized that was the epiphany moment. Here's a person who basically is a complete stranger, had no reason to tell me that other than just what her observation was. And I realized at that point that I was trading my health for my career, and that's a very bad trade. And so for the rest of that day and the next day, I really thought about what was it that I was doing to myself. And I started thinking back throughout my lifetime what I was doing. And this is what there's no surprise. There shouldn't have been any surprise that I ended up in the hospital. So 2 days later, I got out of the hospital. And on the third day, I called up not my micromanager boss, but my micromanager's boss, who actually had hired me two levels up, and just said, "I can't do this anymore." And I resigned and I started for the first time in my life focusing on my own health. And the crazy thing is that once I started focusing on my health and started applying different stress relief tools and techniques, not only did my stress go down, my blood sugars as a diabetic went down, my weight went down, and my energy went way, way up. It was like I had discovered a fountain of youth. And the crazy thing so far is you see what I look like right now. 2008, which, is 18 years ago. If you saw a picture of me from back then and you look at me now, other than a little bit more gray hair, I look younger today than I did 18 years ago. That's what stress does to us. It ages us rapidly. And if we let it get to us like I did back, with the culmination in 2018, it's just going to continue to age us, and we're going to be a lot older than we need to be. And so that's the whole reason why I do this now is to try and let people know, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychologist, I'm a professor, I'm not a doctor, even though I can call myself a doctor, but I reserve doctor for medical professionals. I can share my experience to say, look, it happened to me. And if it happened to me, it can happen to you. So don't ignore what your body is saying about the stress.
This is entire new world to handling the situation with with your own brain, with your own ways, and like tackling your inner self,
Mm.
climbing your inner mountain. Wow, this is amazing. You've been two times TED Talk speaker.
Mhm.
Can you narrate us the story about both times?
Sure, sure. So the first one, I did it on rejection. And what was interesting was that when I first decided that I wanted to do a TEDx talk, I actually wanted to talk about the inner child and my experience growing up in a dysfunctional family and what I did to overcome that, the resilience. And what happened was I continued to get rejections, rejection after rejection after rejection. And each time I got rejected for that topic, it was very hard because it felt like it was a personal punch in my stomach every time they would reject me because it was such a topic that was very heartfelt. And so after about the 50th rejection, I thought, well, maybe I should just give this up. But then I thought to myself, well, wait a minute. What if I did a topic on rejection and specifically being rejected by TEDx organizers? Because a lot of people, a lot of speakers who want to be a TEDx speaker get rejected from these various TEDx organizers. And I thought, okay, so there'll be a specific group of people who would be interested in hearing this. And what what was such a profound change in doing that was the fact that each time I got rejected after that roughly 50th time, each time I got rejected on this new topic, I actually kind of laughed and smiled and said thank you to the organizer because each new rejection added to my data that I talked about in the talk. So it was actually helping me. And then my 90th application finally came through, and I was able to do the talk on rejection, and I talked about laughter as part of that.
90.
90. So then, um, after I did that talk, then I told myself, because doing a TEDx talk is a very challenging thing, especially for me, because I've done, oh, throughout my career, at least 500 presentations in front of crowds, and all but two of them, up to that point, I could use at least some improv during my presentation. So somebody asks a question while I'm doing my presentation, and I could respond to it, but only twice had I given a presentation where I had to do it word for word. The TEDx was one of those. And that's a very challenging thing because you have to memorize it. You have to walk a certain way. You have to, position yourself a certain way. And so I told myself after that 90th uh, rejection and then doing the TEDx talk that the only reason I would do another one is if I get to do it on my original topic, which was connecting with your inner child. And so I applied roughly another 20 times after that first TEDx. And then it came through, 110th time, it came through where I could do the second one. And I was able to do that specifically on the inner child and forgiveness. To my mom in particular, and so that I'm glad that I was able to do it. Unless something comes up, I don't have any plan to do any more TEDx's. I've accomplished that. And now I just focus on, occasional presentations and podcast interviews to you know events and shows that align with what I have to say.
Wow. I mean, there is another world of curiosity to me. Again, you've been declined for 90 times for your first, and 110 if you make to the another
Hmm.
one. Each time one is rejected, it's not a good feeling. Like, it's your energy goes down, you feel
Yep.
bad about this.
Yep.
You're in anger, you're in grief, and everything that is happening to you is negative.
Hmm.
What is that takes you to try again?
Well, like I said, for the first talk, because I was doing it on rejection, and because each rejection gave me data, it didn't put me down. It changed my mindset altogether, and I started using laughter as part of the overcoming that. I would just say, "Ha ha ha, thank you. You just gave me another piece of data, and it just helps me." And what I would say is that if someone is trying to uh, apply for a TEDx talk and gets rejected, don't take it personally, because what happens is the there's a couple things that you can do that certainly improve your chances. One is, you want to make sure that whatever your topic is, that it aligns with the theme of that particular TEDx event. And each TEDx event does have a theme. It has some sort of a slogan, but some sort of theme that fits where they want the speakers to be talking at some way that relates to that particular topic. So blindly applying to every every TEDx event, you're likely to be ignored and or rejected, and so that should be expected. That's one. A second one that can help you improve your chances is, you can find out who the organizer is for each of these TEDx events. You just have to drill down on the website to see who it is. And then what I would do is I would reach out and connect with them on LinkedIn, start to build rapport on LinkedIn with them, and let them know that you applied. And is there anything else that they suggest? And that's what I did. I actually, part of the reason why I received the opportunity, my first opportunity, was that I had built rapport with another organizer who then personally introduced me to someone who had spoke at her event, who was then organizing another TEDx event, and connected me to that person, and I built rapport with them and then got accepted to talk at their events. So blindly applying to every TEDx isn't going to work. But if you are willing to make some of the effort, you improve your chances. And yeah, it doesn't mean that you're not going to get rejected, but what you usually will get feedback exactly about why you were rejected. Now, it really depends on the event, but I can tell you that they're very specific. If they say something like, submit a 1 minute, no more than a 1 minute talk, a preview, because they want to see how you present. Whatever you do, make sure it's 99 seconds or less. And the reason is if your video is even 1 second longer than what they said, they'll throw you out right there. And the reason they do that is because they're looking most TEDx events get more applications than they have speaker slots. So if they if you do not abide by what they requested, that gives them an easy way to eliminate you right there. And that happened to me. Several rejections were because I didn't realize that, like they said, a 1 minute, a 2 minute, a 3 minute. And I would do, let's say, a minute. A minute is very hard, but I did it a couple times where it was like a minute and 2 seconds, and they cut you off because you did not do what they said, what they required. And so, so make sure that you look at everything that they're asking for and do exactly what they say, because you want to make it easy for them to accept you. You don't want to make it easy for them to reject you.
Oh, wow. That means we got to go through the instructions true to letter and spirit. It's not that
Mhm.
we can't assume anything. We got to go by facts. Fantastic. What if I want to apply for a TEDx lessons for my
Mhm.
city where I live? So how can I do that?
So you go ahead and you go to the TEDx website, and you drill down for your particular country to see if there's events coming up. And if there isn't any events coming up, look at the past events and see if there was something in your country. Because if a organizer who did one before is thinking about doing another one, you want to be on their radar. So that's where I would reach out to the previous organizers if if there's not one happening, and just start building some rapport. Ask them if they're planning to, or if they know of somebody who is planning to organize one, because a lot of times they're networked with each other. And so that's a great way to get in front of a particular organizer who is planning to have one. And again, it's similar to sales in that people buy from people. So the organizers that are familiar with you, know what your topic is, have rapport with you, they're going to be more likely to consider you than someone that randomly submitted an application and they don't know anything about them.
Wow. I mean that really gives me direction how I move on towards achieving a lessons for my city or my area where I live. Okay, now back to the last point. I mean,
Mhm,
like being featured on TEDx or like
mhm.
on the, it's an inner mountain between you and that red carpet circle on TEDx. So it's all the time with this inner self talking to you is your low self esteem is such a big mountain within yourself that you can't climb it and you can't conquer it and you can't bypass it and you step on the TEDx red carpet. So how did you manage this?
Well, so what I told myself is that, okay, I have several hundred presentations that I've done in the past. And so I knew I could talk in front of an audience. The part that I had to convince myself was that, okay, is my topic worth sharing? And that's the part where our inner critic, we have to overcome that, because our inner critic is only it's in our conscious mind, and it's only 5% of our brain. Our conscious mind is only 5% of our brain. And while our inner critic, we can consider that being something that is a negative, The reality is our inner critic is there because it wants to help us not fail. So the way that it helps us not fail is, oh, if this is going to be something challenging, maybe you don't do it. Don't do it. So that voice inside of us going, oh, does somebody really want to hear this? No, I mean, don't listen to that, because the reality is so if we have a fear about doing a TEDx because, oh, maybe it's imposter syndrome, or we just don't think that we're good enough to be on a TEDx stage. Well, the reality is that that's just fear inside of us, fear of stretching ourselves. And I like to look at fear as an acronym that stands for fictional evidence appearing real. Fictional evidence appearing real. And if you think about it that way, that you're fearful, where is that coming from? Is it because you think that they're not going to accept you up there on stage? Well, if the organizer selects you as a speaker, you have been selected. You are accepted. Um, and I'll tell you, in both of my TEDx experiences, when we first started, in the preparation, and we would have these Zoom calls where we would meet each other, and then of course, we meet all together at the actual event. There were all different levels and capabilities of speakers. Some of them literally had maybe done just a couple presentations in the past, and this is so they were very um they were rookies at giving presentations, and others like myself who had given hundreds if not thousands of presentations. So it's not about your ability as a speaker to be able to give this fantastic performance. What you really want to focus on is what you're talking about, is that something that is important enough for other people to hear? That's the thing. And for me, another part that I really wanted to focus on was that I thought, okay, if only one person watches my TEDx and gets benefit from it, then it was worth it. So that takes a lot of the pressure off you too, because if you look at the TEDx's, there's, the vast majority of them. I mean, and there's probably, I don't know, I'm sure there must be over a million, well over a million TEDx talks on that channel now. The vast majority of them are going to have less than 1,000 views. It's just that simple. I mean, and probably, less than 100 views for that matter. And that's because, it just didn't catch the attention of people. But you never know. You never know who is going to be watching it. And if you can take the mentality that it's not about the number of views you get, but it's who you impact with your talk. And that's the same thing when it comes to, like, at least the way I do it with podcast interviews as well. If only one person listens to it who benefits from it, then it was worth the time to do it, because that's the abundance that we have to look at, in terms of, it's not about us, it's about others, serving others.
Wow. So I'll take the opportunity, since we are talking. You are a mentor on the mentoring club in Silicon Valley,
Mhm, mhm.
and I have I'm there as a mentee. And can I apply you for as you to be my mentor
Sure, sure. I
for
mean, if
for
it's y-
there are a lot of things that I should be learning from you. like TEDx, like resilience, like
Mhm.
inner healing, like facing challenges with grace, and like I
Mhm.
mean
Mhm.
how at your whole life is light that leads us to a graceful life, despite the fact being from the dysfunctional family, having lots of problems, in all problems all around,
Mhm.
in most of all these health. And you know what I manifest, I really unleash abundance of health, wealth, and happiness. Health is first. If you're healthy, that's why you're here. Had you been in that situation, and you had you not been out of that loop in mentally, had you not shifted from scarcity to abundance mindset, you would have gone probably, or you've been on bed at least. So but you
Right.
change your mindset from scarcity to abundance. So I think this idea is worth spreading, and
Mhm.
I want this to take to TEDx to reach a little more people. And
Mhm.
as you said, I mean, and that's what I really believe. Even one person, if changes what you talk for 18 minutes or maybe lesser, and that's fantastic. And there are a lot of people who've been speaking on abundance on TEDx. It's impossible to follow everybody, but I have, the light I take from this abundance is Peter H. Diamandis in Silicon
Mhm.
Valley, and the X Prize. He is the founder of X Prize, and he is executive director of Singularity University. And
Mhm.
in fact, what I love and what makes me convince and to spend my time and talk to people like yourself, change makers, is the idea of tuning into abundance. Like
Mhm.
it was tuning yourself into abundance, taking the priority number one. I mean, we need to understand the priority we are giving. Is it number one? Your health was in fact the priority, and it
Mhm.
is still is.
Absolutely.
Okay. And but you were prioritizing your work and other things, which were quite important. This is not that does not mean
Mhm.
that it's not important. But so what this is what I want, that we I want to convince as many people as I can. I'm targeting 8 billion people, but if I can win 1%, it's fantastic. If I can tune 1% from wars to no wars, to peace, to
Mhm.
prosperity, to cooperation, collaboration, not the competition, but collaboration, respecting each other's differences and living in peace. That will lead us to prosperity eventually, and there will be abundance of health, wealth, and happiness that I every day essentially manifest for the entire globe, and that is bound to
Mhm.
happen just because the technology
Mhm.
is there. The exponential
Mhm.
technologies are already, which it is quite possible, and abundance is already there. We need to tune into this.
Mhm.
We need to.
Mhm.
So, for that matter, I want you to mentor me for not only TEDx, but for the laughter therapy, but for the resilience, and but for to how to face the challenges gracefully, and how
Mhm.
to rejoice these processes, which generally we want to deflect, and we want to like to take. I mean, we don't want to face those challenges. So I mean, if you really allow me, so I'll officially apply you through that thementoringclub.org, and I'm
Sure.
already there. And I really thank Lizel for putting inculcating her trust in me and trusting me, and she has given me first I could win 3 months scholarship, and then she got me one year's complete. Otherwise, it's expensive, as you know. So since
Right.
you're there, and I intend to unleash abundance of health, wealth, and happiness. So I want you to be mentor in that journey with me. So hope
Sure.
you.
Sure. Yeah, and it's it's a matter of like I'll tell you as a mentor, it's you have to think about what is the end goal? What is it that you want to achieve, and then looking at it from, you reverse engineer it, and you look back and you say, okay, so what is it that you want to achieve ultimately, and where are you here, where are you right now, and what are the steps that need to happen in order for you to get from point A to point B. And it's interesting because one of the key things is, what is it that's motivating you? And like why I say that if only one person hears and benefits, then it was worth doing. Um, and so it's a matter of having, the proper priorities, but also what is it that is um, the right priority in terms of, for your, that's aligned with who you are inside. That's what's so critical, so that the abundance is something that you carry forward, and the message that you carry forward, the key is coming up with something that is unique about abundance that someone else hasn't already talked about. And because you don't want to say, oh, I can't talk about abundance because there's X number of TEDx's already there. Yeah, that might be true, but if you have a unique take on it, a unique story, why not share that? So that's there. And you don't have to, the other thing too is that you don't have to focus only on TEDx's that are going on in your country, because you should be open to, what if you went to a different country's TEDx? Because they have some TEDx's do want to focus on people locally, speakers locally, but they usually have some opportunities for those that are not from the area as well. And so the two that I did, was, both of them were approximately 60% locals and 40% outside of the area. So, so that's another thing that you'll want to consider as well.
Wow. We are limited by our curiosity. I mean, you are just banging my curiosity to south to the poles part. That's fantastic. Okay, now the another lesson with anybody talking to Pete Alexander should really ask how to face challenges, difficulties,
Hmm.
those worries, downtime, and the loss period, or anything negative with great loss, huge loss, be it of any kind and sort and type and manifestation, with grace.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. So one of the things that I always recommend to anyone is to make sure that, whether it's your career, whether it's your relationships, your health for that matter, but make sure that you have clearly figured out what your top values are, your personal values. Because if you have a clear understanding of what your personal values are, and I'm talking about the ones that are the non-negotiables, those will be literally four, five, or six, no more than that. Those are the ones that you want to use as your North Star. Because, like, for example, if when it comes to being in your career, if you're very clear about what your most important priorities are, or your most important personal values are in your career, whenever you're faced with a difficult decision, so let's say you're running a business and you're thinking about maybe buying another business, or hiring a key employee, um, or let's say you're working for a company and you're thinking about a promotion, or maybe going to work for another company. You want to make sure you run that decision through your top personal values. Because if you do that and you realize that, let's say, that decision is not in alignment with one or two of your most important values, it's better not to do that, not move forward with that decision. Because guaranteed, if you make a decision that is not in alignment with your top personal values, you are going to add unnecessary stress, and that's just going to add more challenges to you. But when you have that clarity, then it makes these decisions much easier, because you can just say, no, it's not in alignment with personal value number four. And you get to the point where you make those decisions based on your values, because you know who you are. You're in alignment with yourself, and that can reduce your stress immensely, immensely.
You know, probably this is the most difficult thing in one's life. That's the clarity of thinking. What
Hmm.
do I want?
Hmm.
If any person on the face of earth finds this gem, that what do I want? Could you just open this up to us?
Sure.
How
So,
to get to that point where I really what I want. In fact, generally we are disillusioned. There are the clarity of thought. How do we get to this point?
well, yeah. So if you use the personal values to help clarify what it is that is most important to you, then clarity of thought starts happening automatically. So, your personal values, you can do this for any aspect of your life. And so, let's say you have your list of top personal values for your career, and you have your list for your top personal values for your family, or relationships. There'll probably be one or two that are the same for both, but there will be some that are different. And when you know exactly what is important to you, then you know what you want. Think about that. If you know what is most important to you, whatever it is that you want should be in alignment with that. So let's say that, when it comes, so for me, because I lost my health as part of pushing myself too much in my career, health is number one on my personal values, whether it's my career, whether it's my relationships, etc. I have to prioritize health, because, as we've talked earlier about this, without your health, nothing else matters. And for anyone who says, oh, that's not true, think about the last time that you were very sick, let's say with the flu. Did you feel like doing anything other than lying in bed? And if you're honest, probably not. And so then think about this. If all you have the energy to do is lie in bed, what good are you to your career, to your business, to the people in your life? Not very good. So your health is paramount. That is absolutely number one for me. And so what I want in alignment with that is, I want to have good health, or as best a health as I can possibly have as I get older. And I understand that if I take care of myself much more, I eat much more healthy. I exercise regularly. I never drank or smoked when I was younger anyway, but I make sure that I do things to keep my health good. I do Tai Chi now. And so, and that's important to me. I mean, do I want to do it every morning? Not necessarily, but I do. because it makes my body feel better. And so knowing that health is my top personal value, it allows me to realize, okay, so in relation to that, I know what I want. I know what I want. So that's the very first step anyone should do is to make sure you're very clear on what your personal values are.
Well, it is again one perspective. There's I've got from Peter H. De Mendes from Abundance 360, or like Ray Kurzweil, or the Elon Musk and or Tony Robbins, and that is and Slim Ismail especially when he writes. I'm reading his book, The Exponential Transformation, and it's
Mhm,
absolutely about massive transformative purpose.
mhm,
So it's like, I mean, it's clarity of mind. In fact, everyone's MTP is different and unique. It's like, as you said, it's, I mean, one has to dig down into one's own self, into one's own heart. One has to give time. You got to speak with yourself,
mhm,
and when yourself tells you what is important, one what does it want. That's what exactly, as you said about the alignment. Otherwise, I mean, if it is not aligned, as you said, this will be more another stress, a
mhm.
lot of stress, and another stress. So
Right.
to me, I mean, I think I find this networking, meeting people, and I really enjoy the discussion. And I find these discussions are so powerful that this rewires your neurons.
Mhm,
It rewires your brain. And since my part of the world is inspired from your part of the world, we are third world and you are advanced world. So at least this part of the world should listen to the advanced world just to check it out. What make them advance? What is the difference? So this abundance is like, as I said, I mean, it's taking from scarcity mindset to abundance mindset, and I feel it convincing to follow those who are mature enough already, those who have uh, formulated the systems. And so so this is one reason. Another one is uh, peace, prosperity, collaboration, cooperation, and living in harmony with each other, respecting the
mhm,
differences. What we are doing in this part of the world, we are living in cave age and fighting for, we are all fighting, and this is like fighting for probably for no reason. As I mean, if
mhm,
it is the reason that you love black and you're wearing black, and I'm probably another tone of the same color, but there is no point on fighting over this.
mhm,
Or like, you love something different, you like something, and I do. So I'm fighting that my idea is better than yours. You fight that your idea is better. My, I
mhm,
mean, there's, I don't find a point of, and that these, when the wars are fought over such things.
mhm,
Why, you know, the capitalism, socialism, what bigger country, smaller country, this is scarcity of mindset. So once we are tuned into this, then we'll be happily living in on this blue dot that is planet Earth. So that's
mhm,
what is my heart of the heart. There's the one or two aspects of abundance, and I think this idea is worth spreading. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to take people like yourself on my abundance shows, because I cannot put it the way you can just because you're much better than what I can. Maybe I
mhm,
could be one or two aspects, but there are 360 aspects of everything. Or otherwise, one, it's 8 billion people on the face of earth, or 8 billion perspectives.
mhm,
So
mhm,
that's what I mean. I'm That's my inner thinking when I say. So that's where I want you to mentor me for this. And before again, thank you so much for accepting my request. And one more thing, why these discussions are so important? Why, when we look back in the history, that prophet used to talk to people, and there were discussions. They were talking, convincing them from one mindset to another mindset. And when why this TEDx is important, why these podcasts are important, why these discussions are important. Back to you.
Well, I think it's mostly, as you said, there's, 8 billion people on Earth. Each person has their own perception. And one thing that I have learned over the years, and something I always coach people to do, is to respect the other person's perception of the world. You don't have to agree with it, just respect it. So each person has an opinion. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to get all upset about it. Just respect it. And if we could be able to do that as a world, we would have peace. Because the problem is that, as the way I see it, is people get very upset that if someone doesn't agree with you, with your opinion, and then there's this static. But if we can learn to respect each other about it, and then find some sort of common ground, then we can have peace. But being able to communicate on TEDx, on podcasts, etc., the important thing about that is the people who share an agreement of your perception. Those are the people who can learn something new, that they're willing to listen. So, if there's someone, the problem, and we have it here in the United States, it's very, very challenging, because it's become a situation where it's you're either agree with someone or you're against them, and it like black and white, unfortunately, and there's not a lot of collaboration, especially on the political side anymore, and so, unfortunately, it's more about either making sure that one side wins, but if one side can't win, then make sure the other side loses. And that is not a good situation to be in. And so, I think, if going back to my original thing about being able to respect the other person's perception of the world, not necessarily agree with it, but respect it, then that opens the door for collaboration and some peace. So I really think that that's a core concept that we in the world should be looking at. The other thing that's interesting about the 8 billion people. So in and this is something that was in a book called The Happiness Equation that came out, I think, like in the 2007, 2008. I read it. And I remember, at that point it was 7 billion people. And what the author mentioned was that in the history of the world at that time, there had been roughly 115 billion people who had lived on Earth. And only 7 billion at that point woke up that morning, meaning that 14 out of 15 people who had ever lived on Earth were dead. The fact that I woke up this morning, Zafar, means that we have already won the lottery. So if we can think about that, no matter what the situation is that we're in, If we wake up that next morning, we have an opportunity. And if we can think about that and it's an as an opportunity, not, "Oh, I woke up again." Well, you've been given a gift by waking up in the morning. A gift that now there's 8 billion people, so, there that 100, let's say 120 billion or 125 billion people who have ever lived on Earth, only 8 billion can say that they have today to do some good. And so that is a big transformation thing that I remember reading, thinking, okay, if I wake up in the morning, I'm not going to think, oh, I've got this to do, or oh, my back is bothering me, or something like that. No, you have an opportunity. So do something with that opportunity.
My goodness, Pete, Professor Pete Alexander. It's such a motivational and transformational, exponential discussion. I don't want to end it honestly, but I mean, I've already hit my limit, and my next commitment is just on is very close by. So thank you so much, Professor Pete Alexander, and beyond that, I would really again please accept my heartfelt gratitude for accepting my request for being your mentee and you be my mentor on the mentoring club, and thanks to you for for blessing us abundantly and taking us from scarcity mindset to abundance mindset. Thank you so much. See you again soon. Thank you, and bye bye. And
My
Allah Hafiz.
pleasure. Thank you for having me on your show, Zafar. And once you fill out on the form, the mentoring club there, ping me because I sometimes the website doesn't let me know that there's a request in there, so I need to. So let me know.
And how about your free time slot in the week? What day and time?
We'll we'll figure that out. We'll figure that out.
Okay.
So
Okay. Think just because the most important time is the thing is time. If you have and then because I'm already taking the sessions with Lizel on Wednesdays and with Hong on Mondays,
oh,
and
good, good.
there are some other lot of podcasting is going on just because I love this podcasting, and this is my universe. I mean, I'm operating in this higher energy orbital. There are stars like yourself, and I'm seeking light and learning a lot. This is so that's why I'm breathing. Else, I mean, if you ask me stop podcasting, I'll die. Bye bye, see you soon.
All righty.